Well, the last week or so, Buddy has been out in the closets, up in the attic, down in the basement, going through boxes and rounding up old trophies that I won through many years of racing. And there's just a ton of memories here. And probably, the way it really started is back in the 50s. I always hung around with guys who were older than me, and they brought me out to Twin City Speedways when it first opened up. And I said, I'm going to go racing there someday. So when my parents were out of town, I had a little 33 Ford three-window coupe. I had no exhaust in it. I had taken the fenders off it, no license plates, no driver's license, and drove up an old Highway 8. And when I get there, the guy at the gate says, "How old are you?" I said, 16. He says, "You're not old enough to race." I said, "Oh, man, you have no idea what I had to do to get up here." And a guy came over to me by the name of Don Vogt, and he says, "Is there a problem here?" And I explained to him how bad I wanted to race, and he handed me a clipboard. And he says, "Here, write a letter from your mother, and say you're 18, and sign it, and you're in." And that was one of the happiest days of my life. Well, my car wasn't very fast. In fact, I think it would turn maybe 60 miles an hour, if that. But I noticed that the motorcycles were running very fast. So the first thing I did was I bought a motorcycle, and I started drag racing that. I went out there a number of times, won a number of trophies, and that was back in the late 50s. There's some of those trophies are in here someplace. And I just got, I just had this need for speed, and it wasn't long before I built a twin-engine motorcycle. And at this time now, I'm already running at Minnesota Dragways. Minnesota Dragways opened up, so I first started with a single motorcycle, then switched over to the twin. And at the time, GSJ had just bought a car called the Little One Dragster with a small block Chevy in it, blown, and I was able to drive that. And I drove two different cars. And meanwhile, all I could think about is to have my own car. And one of the funny things there was, if I drove that car, I always wanted to have my steering wheel on that I'd already bought, because that was the first part that I was going to put on my new car that I already had. So I was kind of dreaming, almost like I was driving my own dragster. But anyways, I drove two cars there. And then we switched over to, I teamed up with Ted Smith for a period of time, and we had an injected fuel motor, small block Chevy, and I ran that. And then I switched over to a 327 with a blower on it. And the following year after that, I went to the 454 Chevy, and we ran that a couple of years. And then I switched over to the Hemi. And I got involved with Byron Nelson then, and Bill Bizonnet. And we ran a number of races. And when NHRA dropped top gas, we did the Midwest All-Stars for a while, and that really irritated me when they dropped that professional class. So at that point, I had a rear-engine car, and I pulled the Chrysler out of that thing and threw a rocket motor in it. And now, I've always said, if you want to go fast, put a rocket on it. So we were the first ever to run a 4-second on a quarter mile, first to run 300 miles an hour on a quarter mile, and then we went out to the Bonneville Salt Flats, and we chased after the national and international speed records. Now, they may sound slow when you look at them, but they're not, because they're average times from the time that you take off to the time you end, and you have to do that twice in an hour. So it's really tough records to go at. And we still hold a number of those national and international speed records. But over the years, we ended up setting 72 state, national, and international speed records. Well, as this turned out, because of my ability to go racing, and we started going on tour, I ended up in California, and I was in a shop one day when a stunt guy came in with a piece of equipment that wanted it repaired. I looked at this, and I said, "Who made this piece of junk?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "I know a lot about plumbing and hydraulics and all that." I said, "I can make you a really nice air ram." So, boom, I made a piece of equipment. Before you know it, I'm making equipment for other guys. And then I met Dar Robinson, like the #1 stuntman in Hollywood. We became best friends. We started working together and developing new equipment that never had been built before, and did a number of shows together. And we worked on like 17 shows for That's Incredible. But anyways, it all led through my racing into the stunt world, and into the rocketry and all the crazy things that I'm still involved with. So after all these years, I'm still involved in racing. But I'll tell you, these memories are just trophies bring me so many memories. I mean, GSCA car shows, racing down in Iowa, Kansas. I mean, all over the country. Union Grove was one of my favorite places. We still hold the record there at 347 miles an hour in a quarter mile, and that was way back into the 70s. I've given away a lot of my trophies to people who have helped me, but these are memories now, for my son to look back in, and I'm so blessed to be able to go racing and have all the racing friends that I had.